my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a full review and demonstration of the new Giorgio Armani Designer Glow Foundation. This was recently released in Canada and I had to pick it up because I actually asked you guys on my community tab if you wanted to see a review on this, and I don't think I've ever gotten so many comments on you wanting to see a review on a foundation or even a product, so I knew I had to test this out. Giorgio Armani definitely, I feel like their foundations are extremely popular. I am someone that doesn't actually love the Luminous Silk Foundation. It just doesn't perform the best on my skin personally. I feel like it just sits on my skin and never really melts in, and it emphasizes texture. So I knew based on the description, because this is basically a foundation that has a medium coverage with a little bit of a glow or a more glowy appearance, that I had to check this out because I do want to have a Giorgio Armani foundation that I absolutely love. I picked this up in the shade number 5. I will say the shade selection is extremely poor. There are only 10 shades available. I'm not sure if when it's coming to the United States, if they will have more shades being released. And I'm not sure if it's just limited to certain shades because there's only a limited selection where this is currently available. And hopefully as this expands out into the United States, we will be seeing more shades available because obviously 10 shades is not enough. And this is the second deepest shade, number 5. So a little bit about this foundation. The Designer Glow Foundation offers day-long youth revitalization and a medium to full coverage lightweight formula. Discover the new formula of Designer Lift, boosted with skincare ingredients, hyaluronic acid, and 4 ceramides to strengthen skin and preserve glow all day long. Designer Glow Liquid Foundation is infused with Prussian blue pigment to create an anti-dullness effect to enhance luminosity. And this also says that this provides a healthy glow and that skin texture seemed more refined with this foundation on, so it's an instant perfect glow. I do have to say that so far I'm getting that nice perfect glow from this foundation. But if you want to see my full thoughts, my review, and wear test on the new Giorgio Armani Designer Glow Foundation, just keep watching. So I have the brand new Giorgio Armani Designer Glow Foundation. This is the Radiant Revitalizing Foundation. I chose mine in the shade 5. I will say their shade range is absolutely atrocious. There are only 10 shades. So their shade range is a little odd. I'm hoping that because I think this was an Asia exclusive to start and then they're branching it out into other countries. I'm wondering if because this was released in Asian countries first, that maybe they just had a limited shade range, and hopefully that as it's released into the United States, we will be getting more shades, but currently there are only 10 shades available in Canada. So I was really curious about this foundation because I am someone who actually does not get along with Giorgio Armani's Luminous Silk Foundation. That looks not great on my skin. It's not horrendous by any means, but I feel like it accentuates pores on my skin, and it's just not the most flattering finish and coverage on my skin personally. But so many people love it, so I've always wanted to love a Giorgio Armani foundation. So I really wanted to try this one out because this does seem to provide a bit more of a glow. So this foundation seems way more up my alley because it's adding that more glowy appearance. And yeah, I'm just really curious about this. So hopefully the shade 5 works. I'm just gonna give this a good shake and I'm gonna pump. That was like 1.5 pumps. And I'm just going to take that on this Shiseido brush. So this is the shade 5. I feel like this shade, it's quite a liquidy foundation. It has like the typical Armani fragrance. It's not like an actual fragrance where it smells floral or anything, but it smells kind of makeup-y, if that's any indication. But I'm just going to start by applying this on that Shiseido brush all over the skin. That's a really nice coverage right off the bat. I would definitely say this is a medium coverage foundation. I like the texture of this. It is melting into the skin really nicely. Okay, that looks really pretty on the skin. Definitely, you can still see little imperfections showing through. Like I can see my freckles showing through. I think it looks really nice. I'm going to take like another half of a pump and I'm going to apply that with a beauty blender. I don't feel like I need this like on a daily basis. I'm happy with the amount of coverage this provided me, but I just want to see how buildable this foundation is. This has a very beautiful finish to it. It's definitely like a satin finish. I wouldn't say it's overly glowy. Like this is called the Designer Glow Foundation, but I don't think it's overly dewy. Like here is a close-up of my skin. I don't think it's too radiant, and there's nothing like shimmery about it. It's not radiant in the way or glowy in the way where it has shimmer particles. This so far is looking much better on my skin than the Luminous Silk does. And I really like that I can still see skin through it. Like I can still see little freckles poking through. I think it just makes the skin look really pretty. Okay, well that's exciting. And it's not sitting into any lines or anything. in the center of my face. Like sometimes when I apply foundation, if it's not a foundation that I'm going to get along with, it's going to kind of sink into my smile lines right here or maybe into my forehead. But so far it's not. It's just laying over the skin really nicely. So that is really pretty. It gives you a really healthy glow. So I really like the way the skin is looking so far. I kind of brought you a little closer so you can see the foundation close up. I think it looks really good on the skin. It looks really smooth. This is a foundation that really melts into the skin, so it's not sitting on top of the skin like the Luminous Silk foundation does on me. So I'm really happy with it so far, and I love that it's giving me a glow, but it's not too radiant where it emphasizes texture. So it's really pretty so far. I'm really happy with it. I'm going to go in with concealer, and I'm going to take this Surratt Dewdrop Concealer just because I kind of want to use the usual products just so I know how this performs with my favorites, and then I'll know if I really do love it. And then I'm just going to blend that under the eyes. I'm going to keep things really fresh and natural looking because I kind of want it to be, I want this look to be all about the foundation and all about the skin essentially. I'm going to switch up the blush today. I usually always am going for my Valentino blush, but I'm going to use the Chantecaille. This is the cheek shade in the shade Grace or Turtle. I really love this color. It's such a great neutral tone that pairs well with anything. So I figured this would be a really great blush to pair this look with. So always tapping off the excess. I'm just going to apply that to the cheeks. This is such a great formula if you're looking for something really refined. This blush is definitely extremely finely milled. This powder is so delicate. So you do need to be careful if you're bringing it anywhere because it's just very prone to breakage. But it's such a gorgeous formula, how it sits on the skin. And there's like a very, it's not really a sheen, but just this formulation is very creamy. So it is one of those cheek colors that melts into the skin and just adds to your complexion, that just beautifies your look very naturally. It's not an overdone blush at all. And this color just complements so many different things. So I love this. And I feel like it's been a while since I've used my Sisley bronzer. So I'm going to use the Sisley bronzer today, taking that on a Sonia G Niji Pro. And this is a baked gelée formula. So with baked gelées, I always find that you need a little bit of a denser brush and you need a little bit of a harder hand. So you don't want to use a fluffy brush or to use a very soft hand because baked gelée products, they're harder to pick up on a brush because they're very stiff powders. They don't kick up like excess powder or anything like that. What I love about a baked gelée is how seamless they are. They really are those melty powders that really just become one on your skin. They become very creamy on the skin and they don't look like powder products at all on your skin. So if you're trying to achieve a natural look, a baked gelée is a gorgeous powder to go for because again, they look very skin-like. Another great option for a baked gelée product is the Chantecaille. This is the Real Bronze in Sirena. This is such a gorgeous baked gelée as well. Some of you have asked me the difference. The Sisley bronzer is definitely warmer, while the Sirena bronzer or the Chantecaille bronzer, it's a little bit more beigey neutral in tone. They both have a really pretty sheen, but the sheen isn't like luminous. It's not shimmery or metallic on the skin. It just gives your skin the prettiest natural glow. I definitely don't want to take away from this look, and I don't want to add something that's too glowy or too luminous on the skin, so I'm just going to complement this foundation with a very natural glow. So I'm going to go in with the Chantecaille Lotus Perfect Blur Glow Powder. I'm going to take this on an eyeshadow brush. And with this powder, because it's so subtle, you can be very generous. And I'm just going to apply that to the tops of the cheekbones. This powder is basically a brightening powder. I wouldn't even classify it as a highlighter. It's just the most gorgeous glow powder that's very different from your typical highlighter. So this glow powder actually blurs the skin and makes your skin look even better. It just enhances your complexion and makes you look healthy without it looking like you've added a typical highlighting product to your skin. It adds the most subtle glow where you can't really detect the difference. It's just that your skin looks better with it on. And this Chantecaille powder is another baked powder, so it's going to, again, really meld into the skin and just melt with all the other complexion products that I've used. And I do want to set the skin down at least a little bit, just because that's typically what I do on a normal basis, but I'm only going to set the very center of my skin, and I'm going to take the newly reformulated Clé de Peau Refining Pressed Powder, and I'm just picking it up on this small brush because I want really precise application, because with my powder application, I just want to apply powder in a very specific area I do not want powder all over my skin because I don't want to take away that glow on especially the high points of my cheekbones, even like right here around the forehead. I want to keep everything nice and hydrated and glowy looking, but I only want to set down and blur really specific areas on the skin. Like I don't want the center of my chin to be shiny. I don't want that to emphasize texture, and I want the center of my face especially to be really blurred out and smooth looking. So that is where I apply powder, and I'm always pressing the powder into the skin like that and just being very precise with application. For the lips, I'm going to take this Surratt. This is the Lipslique in the shade Hevyn. I adore this shade. It's so beautiful. And it's just one of these twist ups, and I am just going to apply that all over the lips. This is like the perfect Your Lips But Better shade, or My Lips But Better shade. And the formulation is so nice as well because it has a nice glossy finish. So it's one of those hybrid lipstick lip gloss formulas that just leaves the lips feeling so nice and smooth, and your lips always feel better after you've had this product on. And then I'm just going to top it off with the YSL. This is the Rouge Volupté Candy Glaze in the shade 02. So it's basically like a clear gloss, but there's something so special about this formulation. It's like a very thick moisturizing formula, and it just glides over your lips, but because the texture of this is so thick, it provides such a nice layer of moisturization over top. I love this formula. And for the eyes, I want to keep things really like effervescent and beautiful and eye brightening and awake because I want this whole look to be really glowy and natural and flat fresh. So I'm going to use the Clé de Peau Eye Color Solo in the shade number 102 Glistening Pearl. I can never remember the name of this for some reason. I'm just going to take it on a flat brush. This is that beautiful primer texture, so it's like a putty shade. It feels like a putty. It's so interesting. But I love this color and just how this looks on your eyes. It doesn't look like it would be unique, but I swear how it makes your eyes is just, it makes them look so pretty. Like I love just how fresh and awake my eyes look. And then I'm just taking a little bit of that product, whatever's left on this brush, and running it along the lower lash line. Just add a little bit of that brightness there. And this shadow is so pretty. This formula is so unique because again, it's kind of that putty formula. So it feels like a cream. And when you apply it onto your eyes, you get that creamy effect on your eyes. Like everything just looks really smooth and hydrated. So I feel like this type of formula actually makes your eyes look younger and youthful. I feel like if you have mature eyes, you are going to love this formula because of how it looks. There is something, you wouldn't think that this would be special, but there is something special about this eyeshadow where it just makes your eyes look absolutely beautiful. I am loving this. I do like a little bit of color on the lower lash line, so I'm going to take this Vieve. This is the eye wand in the shade Camel. So I'm just applying this onto a pencil brush, and I'm going to buff that along the lower lash line. This is one of my favorite eye sticks. I've been like on an eye stick kick lately, but this formula is truly one of the best out there. It is creamy, it is blendable, but it is so pigmented. It's really smooth. You have ample time to work with it before it sets down, but once it sets down, it's not going to move. It doesn't crease or get gummy throughout the day like some other eye products can. It is truly one of the best formulas that I have tried in an eye stick. I do like the Victoria Beckham as well, but I do think the Vieve formula is just a little bit better than that one. I'm just so impressed with how this looks on the eyes. It always layers beautifully as well. This is like the most sophisticated, refined shimmer. There is a little bit of a shimmer particle, but it's nothing obnoxious. It's nothing too much. It's nothing crazy. And yeah, I also went in with my mascara. I went in with the Gucci mascara today, and then I tightlined with the Hourglass Boyer Waterproof Gel Liner. So this is everything with the makeup completely done. And I think the skin looks really, really pretty. I think that this is a really nice medium coverage foundation. It's definitely not something I will reach for when I want my skin to look like completely skin-like, or that I'll reach for on a daily basis. I feel like this is more of a going out special occasion foundation just because it has a higher coverage level and it is quite perfecting, but it's not perfecting in that it's a full coverage. Like I definitely can still see skin texture showing through, which I really like. And this is my favorite type of finish in a foundation, where it has a little bit of a glow. I think it leans more satin on me. It's not too glowy, it's not too luminous, but it's also not matte in any way either. I feel like if I could make a comparison, I feel like it has more coverage and a bit more of a glow than the Prada foundation. And I feel like the coverage level is very similar to the Clé de Peau Radiant Cushion Foundation Dewy. But I feel like the Clé de Peau foundation is definitely more dewy, more luminous on the skin than this foundation is. Now, I wouldn't say this is as blurring as some of my favorite foundations. Like I still feel like the Prada foundation and the Chanel Sublimage L'Essence de Teinte foundation is more blurring. but this does have blurring properties to it. It's just not the most blurring foundation. I also feel like it reminds me a lot of the Chanel Sublimage Le Tente foundation. I do think like the coverage levels are extremely, extremely similar. This is probably the foundation I would compare it to the most. I do think the Giorgio Armani foundation does have a bit more of a glow to it though. Sometimes I find this Chanel foundation is a little bit too matte on my skin, but I feel like this Armani foundation has the perfect level of glow. It's a very skin-like finish, I want to say. So I feel like this is really pretty on the skin, not sinking into any fine lines. I think I went out and looked in the daylight, and I think it looks really pretty as well. That is it for the makeup currently. I will come back in a few hours and do a check-in because I am going to be doing an all-day wear test on this foundation because I want you to see how this wears all day long, because I feel like one of the claims is that this is long wearing, so we need to see how it performs all day long. That is what I love doing most on my channel, are those wear tests. So let's come back in a few hours and we'll see how this foundation is wearing. I feel like now is the perfect time to do a check-in because it is just getting dark now, and I want to do this before it gets dark because I don't have any artificial lighting. But I think this foundation has held up absolutely beautifully. I did put a little bit of lip product on because my lips are so dry, but I think this looks gorgeous. I definitely am a little bit shiny in like the center of my face, but I've had this on for 8 hours and I think it looks pretty spectacular. Definitely, like I said, a little bit glowy in the center of my face here, but it's not bad at all. It hasn't separated, it hasn't creased, it hasn't gotten awkward. Like sometimes throughout the day, I feel like foundations can either pool inside pores, like it can kind of make your pores look more noticeable. I don't think this has. I think really I could go out and be okay going out in this foundation. I would maybe just put a little bit of powder on just through the center of my face if I were actually going out, but I think this foundation held up pretty well. It's just more glowy, but the glow doesn't look greasy, and I think that's important when you are looking for a long wearing glowy foundation. You don't want your foundation to look greasy at the end of the day because that's just not a great look. I think it still looks really nice. I don't have really anything negative to say about this foundation. The one thing I guess I want to say is that little bit of fragrance, and again, it's not a perfumed fragrance. It's this fragrance that Giorgio Armani foundations have. If you've smelled the Luminous Silk foundation, that is the fragrance it has. It's just this like kind of chemical-y smell, I guess I could say. And I think the most similar foundation now that I have worn it is the Chanel Sublimage Le Tente. This is the most relatable foundation, except that this Chanel foundation I think is more matte on the skin. I do think they're very, very similar in coverage and how they look. Especially at this point, I think maybe the Chanel foundation is a little bit more matte. Like I said, the Giorgio Armani has a little bit of glow, but the coverage level is very similar on the skin, and I think, I don't know, they just remind me of each other for some reason. They just do. That's probably the most similar foundation. Another foundation I would say this reminds me of is like the Clé de Peau Radiant Cream foundation. I would say the glowiness reminds me of the Clé de Peau foundation. I think the Clé de Peau foundation has a little bit more coverage, but I think the glowiness probably reminds me the most of the Clé de Peau. So it's like if these two had a baby, then that would be the Giorgio Armani foundation. I think it's pretty. Do I think you need this foundation? Absolutely not. You of course don't need this foundation. I just think it's pretty, and I'm glad I have a Giorgio Armani foundation that I can use. I think this color worked out pretty well for me. I did have a little bit of a tan that was developing, so I've rinsed it off and I feel like now it matches me better. I'm trying to think if I went over all the points. I think I did. I will say the one thing is that it is fading like around my nose here. It's definitely getting a little bit like oily and just separating a little bit around my nose, but that's not typical, I guess. Like that's pretty average for a foundation for this amount of wear. I think it's pretty. Is this going to become a holy grail? I don't think so. I still think I might prefer some of my Clé de Peau and Chanel foundations, but this is I've only been trying this out for a little bit, so I obviously will have to keep testing this out. But so far I do like it, and I think it is a beautiful foundation. I don't think it's a must-have though, so you don't need to run out and purchase it right away. Maybe wait for a sale, wait for more reviews, wait to see if people are still using it at a few months' time. But that is it for this Giorgio Armani Designer Glow Foundation review. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.